Today we'll discuss His Holiness's second lecture on the flight of the Garuda. We just talked about receiving the oral transmission. I've explained it quite clearly to everyone. Tomorrow we can do it this way. Now let me briefly go over the second lecture, which was in the afternoon. His Holiness taught the flight of the Garuda both in the morning and afternoon. This should be, where did we stop yesterday? Right, we finished the first lecture. In the afternoon, His Holiness continued from Emaho. Listen once again, fortunate heart children. First, here is how Dharmakaya Samantabhadra was liberated without having meditated even as much as an instant. Then hear how the 6 kinds of beings have been wandering through samsara without having committed even the slightest unvirtuous act. We won't go into these verses for now. I've explained them before. In the future, you can find commentary on each verse. The teaching continues up to, through the magical display of one's mind, decide with complete confidence that everything is the natural form of emptiness, non-existent and yet apparent, after which you should rest in complete equanimity. Up to this point, these are the verses covered in this section. At the beginning of the lecture, His Holiness said, "This time, as I am teaching the clear light, great perfection, and you are listening carefully, I believe most of you have truly understood it." It seemed from their expressions and other signs that His Holiness felt they had understood to some degree. You can see in this photo there's someone named Rosev. His Holiness mentioned him later as well. He was very devoted. I don't know if he's still around now. Throughout our entire trip, from the airport onwards, he drove us every day. He's the one with palms joined together. Even though for now some of you cannot fully grasp this meaning, you should hold devotion and reverence for the teaching and have the conviction that one day you will eventually realize its true meaning. The same applies to us regarding the great perfection. Even if we haven't fully realized it, as long as we haven't broken our samaya and our faith remains unchanged, one day we will surely be able to realize its true nature of mind. Especially this time, all of you want to practice the terma of peaceful Manjushri. Its practice manual, Placing Buddhahood Within Reach, is provided in this terma as well. This Placing Buddhahood Within Reach. His Holiness gave wonderful teachings on it later at this venue, explaining the essence of placing Buddhahood within reach. There was even a more essential pith instruction than placing Buddhahood within reach itself, which he taught all at once. The peaceful Manjushri teachings are truly remarkable. We've already covered this peaceful Manjushri teaching this year, and everyone should be familiar with it. I advise you to apply it to your actual practice. In this way, you will be greatly benefited. For a long time, I have had a deep conviction that the teaching of peaceful Manjushri will bring great benefit to Westerners, especially to many of you present here because you are fortunate ones and have an auspicious connection to this teaching. This includes those of us here today. We certainly have a special, auspicious connection with the peaceful Manjushri teaching. So during this year's retreat, I believe many of you have practiced very well. But I hope you'll continue to practice without interruption, nurturing it continuously. This is very important. Unfortunately, I came to the US at an old age, and it is difficult for me to stay to give you teachings and guidance in the long term, which would have directly benefited you. If His Holiness had come earlier, when he was younger, like other great masters in the West, he could have had the opportunity to teach extensively. That way, it would have brought great benefit to people here. But now, being in his 60s, it would be hard to come again, so His Holiness felt it was a bit late. Actually, from His Holiness's visit through these teachings, we noticed something. Some masters, I probably shouldn't say this, but some who've been in the West for a long time, apart from giving some simple empowerments and instructions to their students, teachings on things like the preliminary practices have been somewhat limited. It's not that there's none at all. Some places do have excellent teachings, but in other places it's quite sparse, just giving empowerments, performing ceremonies, or holding Dharma assemblies. For this reason, although many great masters came from Tibet, mostly Tulkus and great masters, some Khenpos and Geshes, those well versed in theory, experts in the 5 great treatises, were perhaps fewer in number, and perhaps the students weren't so eager to learn. Beyond simple tantric practices, other than simple practices, they weren't particularly keen on deeper study. So there might be reasons from both sides. However, I will pray for you that you will actively practice this teaching and gain authentic benefit from it. His Holiness made this aspiration prayer. For all those who practice his teachings, all of these people, His Holiness also prayed and blessed them. This teaching itself can be very helpful and convenient for you. Why is that? Because its meaning is condensed and summarized, which makes it easy to practice. Although people in developed countries like you have busy schedules every day, you will still find it easy to practice peaceful Manjushri on a daily basis. For Westerners, especially His Holiness's termas, such as Vajrakilaya and the Manjushri teachings, are particularly excellent. They're simple, yet bring blessings very quickly. I believe this is a teaching tailored for people who live in developed countries in the West. I will repeat a verse from a prophetic text that I wrote down a few years ago that precisely predicts this teaching will bring great benefit to people in the West. Let me read this prophecy. The sun, universally benefiting all, rises behind the mountains in the east and shines to the west. Ignorant lower mountains, do not be haughty. When you are covered by the shadows before you, though you are free from the sunlight temporarily, eventually you will be completely exposed to it. When His Holiness was at Mount Wutai, he received a prophetic teaching. This prophetic teaching actually contains much more than just this. It includes many things, including some events happening in today's world. For instance, the sun temporarily appears in the east, but its light shines to the west. This refers to the Dharma as well as various worldly matters. There are prophecies about East and West, about the future, including in today's society. There are also some dramatic changes that were foretold, and there's also the part about some small mountains being arrogant. Don't be conceited. Once you think too highly of yourself, that arrogance and complacency will be your downfall, and so on. There are many layers of meaning in this. What does this verse mean? The practice manual of peaceful Manjushri was written down by me on Mount Wutai to the east of Bodh Gaya, India, but people who have auspicious connections with it primarily live in Western countries. That is to say, it will benefit you, like the sun rises in the east while shining radiantly to the west. This indicates that in the near future, many Westerners will receive immense benefit from this teaching. I think this prophecy has been affirmed at this time. That was the second lecture. Now the third lecture on July 3rd. On the morning of July 3rd, His Holiness taught from, "It is said that on a single anther of the lotus which Buddha Infinite Ocean holds in his hand is contained this entire 3,000-fold universe. Up to, whether moving or still, mind is the continuity of awareness. So when you have fully comprehended stillness, occurrence, and awareness, then practice these three as one. This is how stillness and thought occurrence are non-dual." These are the verses covered in this section, and in between he offered this instruction. It is essential to recognize that all phenomena are the illusory manifestations of your own mind, and then to further realize the very nature of mind. This is fundamental. In order to attain such realization, you need to practice Shamatha first. Because if we want to recognize our true nature, there are generally two schools of thought. One school, His Holiness also discussed this later in France, one school says you must first practice Shamatha. Since they practice Shamatha more here, His Holiness emphasized this point. You must practice Shamatha. You will not recognize the true nature of mind if you are not able to sustain single-pointed meditation for a long time. We covered 2 lectures on this earlier. This fall, we've already taught the Shamatha practice. But overall, it is not enough to just stay in single-pointed meditation where you think nothing and remain in a state of no thought. Such practice alone is meaningless as falling asleep or remaining unconscious, and will not lead you to any higher states of realization. You need to practice Vipashyana based on Shamatha, that is, while maintaining single-pointedness, investigate the nature of mind as instructed. This is crucial. For those of us who may have some meditation experience, His Holiness's words flow from genuine wisdom and are very important. On the foundation of Shamatha, you seek Vipashyana, and then you need to engage in the practice of uniting Shamatha and Vipashyana, the union of Shamatha and Vipashyana. Once you reach the state of the perfect union of Shamatha and Vipashyana, you've placed yourself on the utmost sublime path. Therefore, you should engage in the practice that unites Shamatha and Vipashyana. Such practice needs to be repeated and enhanced as much as possible. That was the third lecture. Now the fourth lecture. I had originally planned to finish all of this today, so it would be better for you when you receive the oral transmission tomorrow. But let me finish the fourth lecture first. That same afternoon, the afternoon of July 3rd, His Holiness taught from the flight of the Garuda, starting with this verse, Emaho, fortunate and only heart children, listen with your undistracted and attentive ears. Allow this harmonious song by me, the singing renunciant Chokdruk Rangdrol, to be kept on the white snowy peaks of your heart. Up to this fruition without anything to be accomplished has not come under the power of acceptance and rejection, hope and fear. To realize the self-luminous and spontaneously perfect present wakefulness, the emptiness where the three kayas are naturally manifest, is precisely the primordially enlightened fruition up to this point. Then near the end, His Holiness said, "There's a photo of me here. I remember that day I was extremely drowsy, probably because I hadn't slept much the night before. It was very hot during the day, especially when His Holiness was teaching this part. I had brought a notebook to write down some of His Holiness's teachings, but when I was writing later, when I looked at what I'd written, it was all a mess, completely illegible. In this photo, you can see my eyes rolling upward. That's what happens when you're drowsy, your eyes roll up. On one hand, it didn't look good to the people sitting below. On the other hand, it felt like the oral transmission was about to be broken. But I had already received this transmission from His Holiness several times before. As for this transmission, Khenpo Wangshu Zejia also has it, and I also have the transmission of the flight of the Garuda. His Holiness has a close lineage. Shabkar Tsogdruk Rangdrol apparently recited it to His Holiness in a dream. So when we taught it before, we read through the entire Tibetan text. Shabkar Tsogdruk Rangdrol had recited it to His Holiness in a dream. At this teaching venue, this time the Trekchö section of Shabkar Tsogdruk Rangdrol's The Flight of the Garuda is coming to your ears without missing a single word. You should listen to the oral transmission attentively and hold genuine devotion to this teaching. Check yourselves regularly whether you have truly understood this teaching. If not, make your best effort to delve into the text. I believe through the blessings of Shabkar Tsogdruk Rangdrol and his teaching, you will be able to realize its meaning very quickly. With the blessing of this close lineage, with the blessing of Tsogdruk Rangdrol, His Holiness said you will quickly attain realization. I believe many of us here have relied on the blessings of these realization songs. Some people regularly recite these realization songs on their own. Tsogdruk Rangdrol's spiritual songs are indeed very profound. Now, according to your faculties, I will summarize this text into 3 key points. What are the 3? First, do not feed your conceptual thoughts by letting them arise actively. Rest the mind in its natural state. This is the first point, primarily a Mahamudra practice. Second, when the mind abides in the state of no conceptualization, relax naturally, observe its essence, and then recognize its nature as emptiness. This is the second point, primarily the Dzogchen view. He didn't elaborate further here. The view of emptiness is particularly suited to Westerners, along with the view of abiding. Third, abide in such a state and sustain this realization in daily life. Abiding itself is emptiness. Within emptiness, the mind can rest in this view or to sustain this continuum. This is His Holiness's third point. I'll repeat one more time. Naturally rest the mind, recognize its nature, and maintain that state of realization. These 3 key points summarize all essentials in Mahamudra and in Dzogchen's 3 categories of Tantra, transmission, and Upadesha. These are truly for those who genuinely wish to practice in seeking their own realization when coming to know and recognize the nature of their own mind. These are the key points. Please continuously and persistently practice these pith instructions. That's all for today. In the next session, I'll share other content with you. We'll stop here for now. After we finish reciting the King of Aspiration prayers, you can recite the Shurangama mantra.
Sonamdei tamse vogaya tone de dhamma pase jirgana jirano chupai 这顿从人转转向。
Manjushri Garuda Sodargye Manjushri Garuda Sodargye Manjushri Garuda Sodargye